Welcome everyone. In this lesson we're going to be creating a event calendar. I call it Simple Scheduler. I have a live version available that you can check out. It's located at Simple Scheduler Online. So that's simplescheduler.online if you want to preview what we will be building. If you're ready, grab your coffee if you need to. And like I said, if everyone is ready, we'll just jump right into it and get to it. To begin, I'll point everybody to the GitHub where I got all the files located. I went ahead and created a repository for everything, and that is switch over. Right here. So it's github.com/computers/simple scheduler, and we just come click on part 1. That's where it's located. I'll be breaking this up into maybe 2 or 3 parts. Just depends on how far we get in each section. Now I won't be covering a few things in this tutorial, such as setting up MySQL, MySQL, or Apache to use for the tutorial. So I just kind of assume you have an understanding of how those technologies work and how to use them. I have included in the part 1 of this tutorial the needed SQL files along with the htaccess file. We will mainly be focusing on creating a login and registration form along with methods for handling them, and then the JavaScript and application files for displaying and modifying our calendar with events. So at least in this first section, I'd like to get the registration knocked out, kind of get started on that, possibly the login, and then maybe in the next section do the JavaScript and the application. So we won't be using JavaScript for the login and registration, just mainly for the application itself as far as the calendar events go. So, like I said, just kind of depends on how far we get. So at least get the registration knocked out in this lesson, and then just kind of keep moving forward. We will be using a framework for this lesson as well. It's a fairly popular framework, one that I enjoy using, and it's called CodeIgniter. It's not as popular as, say, Laravel, but still fairly popular. If you've never used a framework before or don't know what one is, don't worry about it. It's really easy to use and set up. It also allows us to speed up development. So that's the great thing about a framework, is it kind of takes care of a lot of the footwork for us. It's not to say that you shouldn't be able to create your applications without one, as you should understand the language that you're writing in. And using a framework will just take care of a lot of the footwork, like I said. And it allows us to get straight to creating our application. So it makes it kind of nice. Like I said, it takes care of a lot of the footwork, and it just allows us to just kind of jump in and just start creating what we want to create without having to worry about a lot of the extra things that need to go along with. So enough about that. Let's just have a look at the code. The first thing I'm going to go over is the files that are included in the repository for the first lesson, and also the directory structure and where things are located in the framework. Once you've downloaded the repository and extracted to your development server, open up that location to browse those files. I'll just use my IDE to browse through. I could browse through right here in the repository itself, but I already have it opened up over here and downloaded, extracted, and set up. And so I'm just going to kind of go over it. Well, you know, on second thought, I think I'll just show you guys over here. So if you come here, Simple Scheduler, part 1. So this is this lesson that we're going to be working on. Like I said, I've already included the SQL files, so schedule SQL, sessions, and users SQL database. So these 3 you'll need to import into your MySQL server. and then the htaccess file. So depending on your setup, you're going to want to probably include this. And this is just essentially going to rewrite the index.php out of the URL. So that's all that's really doing. The other thing is, let's say if you guys have used a framework before, or used CodeIgniter, or pretty much any framework, you guys are going to already have an idea or understanding of how frameworks work. So you guys can kind of skip past this section. So applications, actually let's back up. Assets directory, so this is going to contain all of our CSS, images, JavaScript, and then I've also included what's called admin LTE. So it's essentially a framework as well, a CSS framework built around Bootstrap. Which, if you haven't heard of Bootstrap or used Bootstrap before, it's pretty popular. But it's just going to take care of a lot of our styling for us and make this really neat looking. So it's kind of, because we're not going to really focus on any kind of CSS or styling. There's going to be a little bit of styling, but I've already included a style sheet for that. So we're just going to be mainly focusing on the login, like I said, the registration system, and then basically the events calendar. That's our primary focus here. So if we just go to admin LTE and just do a Google search, free Bootstrap admin template, and it's great. I've used it for quite a few projects. Works really well, and the version we're going to be using is 2.4.5. It's just the one that I've included for this demonstration or for this tutorial. So as you can see, it comes with a lot of already designed modules, and just really quick and easy. And basically what we're going to be doing is using this calendar here, and we're going to be able to create drag and drop events and save those to a database, and then we'll create the login and registration system, so this way it's a multi-user setup, so multiple users can log in or register and create their own private calendar this way. So that's what this is, the admin LTE. So this is basically all of what's needed for that. CSS is just a CSS file, pretty basic. It doesn't really have much to it, just for basically an agenda view, and when we get to that, you'll see what that is. And images, preview and reach. This is just some basic. I don't know if it probably, oh, it showed. It's just this little hand that I just use as a generic image for a user, so no big deal there. And then a couple JavaScript files, an Ajax file that I like to use for handling Ajax requests. It just kind of makes it a lot simpler. And then the other file in here is the scheduler.js, which is what we'll be writing and creating. It just has a little bit of JavaScript in here just for the basic parts of the calendar. We'll be creating the rest of this file as we go through this. And then in the applications directory, so we come back, we have applications, assets, SQL. These are system files for the framework, which we won't need to modify anything that's in this directory. And this here is just the user guide for the CodeIgniter framework. So if you guys want to read that, or you can read it online. And then a few other files, licensing, and the index file. And then applications file. And here we have several different directories. We have a cache directory, which we won't be handling, dealing with anything in there. Config, there's a couple files in here we'll need to change. Controllers, so this is what will be accessed up here whenever we want to access a particular view within our application. Core files, we won't be messing with anything in here. The helpers, hooks, languages, or libraries, or logs. We will be creating a model inside of here. Third party we won't mess with, and then views. So in the controllers folder, I've included, the welcome PHP controller is the default controller that's included with CodeIgniter. I've just kind of modified it slightly, and we'll be building upon this once we dive into it. and then we'll be creating some other controllers as well. And then along with models, I haven't included the other model in here because we're going to be creating that. And then views, I've included all the views that are necessary for this project, just to kind of speed up the process of us developing this application. And so app, created a profile and scheduler PHP. So this profile PHP, we won't really be doing anything with this, but we will just be creating a link to it and then a function inside of one of our controllers to show that. And then if you guys want to build this application out further, you're more welcome to. And then in the scheduler, like I said, it's just some basic HTML with a little bit of JavaScript and a little bit of PHP that's included in these to like I said, I just got these all created just to kind of speed up the development process, so we can just go ahead and get right to it, and so we don't spend a whole lot of time on the HTML. I'll just kind of assume that you guys know how to write HTML at this point, and basically are just wanting to learn how to create the calendar event, and then also as kind of a little perk, the login and registration system as well. And then like I said, the auth, there's a login, register, and success files, so those are all included as well. And then our landing PHP page, which is what's going to be displayed to the user when they first come to our site. So this code here is going to be here. Like I said, it's already got it created and ready to roll. Guys, just modify to your liking. And so that should be pretty much it, I think. So controllers, models, views, and that's pretty much everything that I think that we need to talk about as far as that is concerned for now. And let's see, so we can just kind of jump over. I already have it set up here. I've downloaded it and got that set up. Let's see, so nothing's working right yet. So our login, it's just going to give us a 404 page, and our register page, same thing. The calendar should be working on the main page. This is just a little demonstration, but if we refresh the page, obviously it's just going to go back to the default, so nothing's going to be saved there. And we're going to create a login registration, then we'll be able to allow users to save their basically their own personal calendar and create events. So if we jump over into our IDE, if you guys have that everything downloaded and set up and ready to go, if not, go ahead and pause the video and get that going, get that all set up, and then when you're ready, come back. And then if you have any questions or if something's not quite working right, definitely leave a comment down below, and I'll try to respond the best I can and get everything answered and help you guys out with whatever I need to help out with. Let's see. I suppose where we probably need to begin is by creating the registration system, because we really can't do much without being able to allow users to register in our system. And maybe even before we quite do that, let's just take a look here. I'm going to hop over here. So this is a landing page, and I'm just going to open up the config directory here, and then I'm going to move my mic a little bit just to make sure you guys are able to hear me okay. So I'm going to kind of move it a little bit closer and kind of a little bit more in my direction, because I got a dual monitor set up, so I'm kind of looking between two screens here. So let's look here. So if we come over here, we open up the config directory, and we'll just open up this config file, and let's just kind of look through it. So base URL, you guys are going to maybe want to change that to represent your machine to make sure it's working properly. So if you're having an issue with it loading, you might need to change this to represent your local URL or IP address or whatever setup you got, along with if you have a specific port number that you're using. Means I have multiple virtual hosts running. I have a port for this particular virtual host. Otherwise, if you just have one, that you won't need that port number from the semicolon on or the colon on. And I don't know that there's a whole lot else we'll need to change in here. Maybe a few things. Let's take a look. Let's scroll down. And encryption key, we may need to set that. Encryption class, I don't know. I can't remember if we'll be using the encryption class in this or not, so we may or may not need to set a key there. Session driver, so we'll need to change this to database, because we'll be using a database. And then the session cookie name, you can just leave that to CI sessions, not a big deal. And the SQL file that I included, it should be, let's take a look here, SQL sessions. So this file here is basically going to store all of our sessions, and the rest of these settings can stay the same for now. That looks good. And cookie related, so yourdomain.com for site-wide cookies, so whatever your domain name is, so we'll need to set that. And this should be, I may have to come back and change this, but let's see, I'm just going to eliminate that, and we'll just do that. Oops, cookie prefix, we don't need to put that in the prefix, we'll just need to put this in the cookie domain. Cookie path should be fine. And standardized new lines, we don't need to change that. Global Xss filtering, like I said, this isn't a you know, the most secure login and registration system. This is just going to be a kind of a basic login and registration system. So you know, you could turn this on, but as you can see here, it says this feature is going to be depreciated and currently available only for backwards compatibility. So the CSRF, the cross-site request forgery token name, we can leave these the same, but when we get into that with our script and passing information along, we'll need to include some of that. And this may need to be changed in a couple. When I upload it, I'll try to fix that and upload that to represent correctly in so as I go along, I may need to change those. You may see me change those because I may have some issues there. I don't want to spend too much time on this portion of it. I'd like to get kind of into the coding side of things, creating this app. So config, and then routes. We're going to need to set some routes, and then database. We'll definitely need to connect to our database, so you'll need to come in here and enter your database information. So username, so I'm going to go ahead and enter that now. Twitch, and then hello, and then whatever the database that you've created. And my database that I'm using for this, I do believe, is just simple scheduler. So yes, we're just going to type simple scheduler. So that should give me tucked in. And then the rest of these things, you may need to change these depending on your environment. So for me, I can just leave everything as is and it should work just fine. I can close this out and everything should work okay there. Routes, we'll definitely need to create some routes for our files, for our controllers, and URL mapping. So we'll need that. And I suppose to begin with, we could probably go ahead and create a route for this. And I have a list of routes because I've already built this app, so I'm gonna reference to that just so this way we can get to that. So our login, the first thing we're going to create is the register portion of this, and so I'm going to type it out just to kind of give a little bit. So this is pretty self-explanatory too. It gives you an example up above of how these work. So for my controller index or my controller method will map to your controller method. And we're just going to say route, and then we're going to say register. So anytime somebody types in your domain name / register, we're going to map it to where it's going to be at, and that's going to be mapped to auth/register/index. So this is going to be the directory, and this is going to be the object name or controller name, and then the function within that controller that we want to map this to. So that should be good to start with, and then we'll have to create a few more routes for this registration portion of this. But for right this minute, and I'll just go ahead and leave this file open because we'll need, like I said, we'll need to come back in here and add some more routes. So config, I think we can close that for now. Welcome PHP. I don't know that we're going to need anything in there right now. And landing page, I don't think we'll need to change anything here right now. Let's see, landing. Let's just scroll down and just check. No, everything in here should be good as is, because this is just a basic static page. We're not really doing anything with that. So we'll close that out. And then over here, we're just going to come down to the controllers directory to begin with. And we're going to go ahead and create a new folder. And this folder is just going to contain all of our authentication controllers, and we're just going to label it auth. And then inside here we're just going to create a new PHP file, and it's going to be called register.php, and we'll just go ahead and delete this, and come down here and just start by creating a new class, and it's going to be register with a capital R, and this needs to extend the code igniter controller, so it's going to be extend CI controller, and then we'll also need to create the constructor, because we'll need to have access to all of code igniter's functions. So we'll just do you can do just public or just function, but we'll just do public function, and then just constructor or construct, and then parent construct, and don't need void in there. And then above this, being this is a register function, we're going to go ahead and create a variable, and it's just going to be a private variable, so it's only going to be available in this scope of this object, and it's going to be is logged in, and we're going to set this variable to false to begin with, and so we can kind of keep track of this. And then inside of our construct function, we're going to go ahead and set this. So to do that, we're just going to check our session and see if the user is logged in. So just say this is logged in, and we're going to say equals is set, and we're going to look to the global session variable and say we're going to set this later, logged in, and we're going to use a shorthand syntax, and we're going to say session is logged in, and then or false. So basically is logged in is going to equal session, whatever we set in the session is logged in, so whether it's true or false, if there's a value set there, and if not, if there's nothing set there, or then we're just going to set to false. And so the next thing we need to do is, depending on whether or not they are logged in or not, so anytime this is loaded, if you understand how this the construction of objects work, excuse me, I have kids in the background. If this is logged in, so we're just going to say if this is logged in. So if this is, what happened there? I think I tabbed out of that. Yeah, we don't need that. And get this out of the way. Okay, so if this is logged in, we're going to say if we're going to check to see if they're logged in. If they're logged in, then obviously we don't want to allow them to try to register because they're already logged into the system. So we're just going to redirect them, and we're going to redirect. This is a built-in function for Code Igniter. So base URL. And we're going to say redirect to scheduler. I don't think it did. No. So scheduler, so we're going to redirect to scheduler. And so that's going to be where our app, our events calendar is going to live, is under that URL. And then if they're not, we'll say else this, we're going to say load model, and we're going to say load model, and we're going to load the registration model. We're going to create a model that's going to handle our registration process, all of our registration functions and methods. So, I didn't have I already did have one. Just scrolled over. Okay, and let's see. So the next thing we need to do is create a function to load our view. So whenever the user comes to this this controller, it's going to load our view, our default view for this controller. So we'll just create a public function. It's called index, because remember over in our routes file, auth register index. So we have auth register, and then this control, or this method inside of here, this function, which is index. And then we're just going to load. So to do that, we just say this load view, and we're just going to say auth/register, and that's going to, we need to eliminate that first /. So this load view, and that should load us our view for the registration page. And I don't have my register views in there, so let me grab those and copy those over to there, and I grab them. Our application views, and just copy those, and application views. Oh, wrong directory. Sorry guys. So views. Oh, I should be able to just do this maybe. And paste. Yeah, there we go. Okay, and we don't need this extra one here. Delete that one. And delete that one. Okay, so auth, and then register. These all should already be in there for you guys. Auth register, and then success, login, and error. So our register file, so auth register, should be good for that. And then we have our route set up. Now this may give us some errors because I think there is some PHP that's contained in here. Yes, so full name and email, and so we'll see what happens. We'll go ahead and try to load that just to verify that that route's working and it's actually loading our view like we want. So let's check that out real quick. Switch over to that view. Let's see, auth. We should be able to just type register, and it says no, it wasn't found. And did I forget to save something, or did I not change something? Let's take a look. Auth register. register, so register is that, and register, so auth, and register extends CI controller, and I see, because this here, the file name also has to be capitalized, so that's hopefully just the issue. So let's take a look. Yeah, it looks like it. Okay, switch back over here for you guys. So now, yeah, we're seeing an error. And it's unable to locate the model you have specified, the register model. So let's go ahead and just create that now, so we don't have it, because we're going to need that anyway. So we'll just jump back over here, and for that we're just going to come down to the models directory, and I believe we're just going to have that in the default. Let's create new PHP class, and this is just going to be called register model .php, and register model, and we're just going to eliminate some of this here. We don't need that. And in this register model, we need to make sure we write extends, and it's going to be CI model, and then again we'll need to create that construct function. So public function, and it's going to be construct, and parent construct, and then that should be really all that's needed for that for now. And if we come back over to our view, it should not give us this error anymore. Yeah. Okay, so we're still getting an error, but it's loading the view, and it's not giving us an error because there's not that model available. So it's telling us form open. So in order to fix that, that's a pretty simple fix. We just come back over here and come up here to our config directory and auto load. And we just need to scroll down. Oh, no, I opened the wrong file. Config. We need auto load. And here we can auto load some default functionality, and for this we just come down here to helper and we just say form, and that should take care of that for us. Yeah, okay, so that takes care of that. And so as you can see, our form's kind of already here, but it's not going to do anything. If we click register, it's going to send us to a URL that doesn't exist within our system yet. So that's what we're going to be working on next. So we come back over here to that, and we can close out this auto load file now. And the register model, we can leave this open. I'm just going to put it over there for now because we're going to be working on that. The register index file, I don't think there's anything in here that will actually need to change. It should all stay pretty much the same as is, so we can close that out and get rid of that. Routes file, we will end up needing to add some more routes, so we'll leave that open for the time being. And let's see, for the next thing that we need to create, we need to create a couple more views. So we have the, let's see, views, auth, register, and success, and then error. We'll have an error view in case there's an error with either our assisting system, or as you can see, already a member. So if the user tries logging in, we're going to check that, and then if they're already a member, we'll let them know. So we'll just use that for that, and we'll redirect them to that. And so let's see here. So to create those, we'll just go ahead and create these. We can just basically copy and paste this first one here, because we're going to need, like I said, 2 more methods to handle that. So those next 2 methods are going to be success, and then the next one's going to be error. And for these, we're just going to load those views in those. So error and success view. And then that should get us those. Now we'll need to create routes for those as well, and to do that we can go ahead and create those routes, and we can just copy and paste this route, couple more times here. So we'll have register success and register error. So register success and then register error, and this is going to be, we're just going to change this to success because that's the method that we're wanting to call within that controller, and then error method within that controller as well. So success and error, so both of those should be working now. So if we come back over to our browser, we should be able to see those in action. If we just type in success, success, so auth success, register, auth register success, auth success, and the requested page is not found. Let's try error. No. Why are those routes not working? Register success, auth register, and error. Let's see. The way we can go about this to check is just type in index.php, which my HT access should be set up fine, and then register, and then let's see, auth register, that's redirecting back. So index.php, because I believe in the error file I have it set, yeah, so in the error once that was loading that way, so it's an issue with our routes, because here in our error file I have it set, if set error, where error is true, then it will go ahead. If not, I have it set down here to redirect to register. So if I just commented that out, we can see that that's working, but why it's not working the other way with our conditional route, I'm not quite sure. So that's showing that. So same thing with success. So that's set to redirect. So let's take a look and see why that's not working. But routes, register, success should be auth, register, register, success, and error. So register, oh, I see why, because it needs to be register error. So I was just typing in, I think, error. And so if we switch back over here and we just type in register, now the success one won't work because it's going to redirect us back. It will work, but it won't display the page. So error, so register error, and then if I go to success, it's going to redirect back to the register page. So it's working. It just wasn't. I just wasn't typing it in correctly. Okay, so that's that, and we'll come back over here, and on our error page, we'll uncomment that. So that should be working now, back like it's supposed to. So that's error. So that should redirect us, yeah, back to the register page. Okay, so that's working correctly. So now that we got that fixed, so we got our routes for the register function, our method, the success method, and the error method. So now we just need to come over here into the controller, and we're going to need to create another method, and that method is going to handle the input from the form, so the post values, and then it's also going to do some validation for us. We're actually going to do the validation within our model. And so to start, we'll just create a public function, and we'll call it validate. And inside of this method is where we're going to get our post values. So on our form, we have a few different things. We have full name, email, password, and then for them to retype the password, and then the I agree to the terms. So we'll need to grab those items from the form, and to do that, that's pretty straightforward. We'll just say see, first name or full name. We want a full name, so we're just going to grab, we're not going to grab each individual name, the first name and the surname or last name. We're just going to grab the whole name as one string, and full name is going to equal this input post. Now you could do it this way, or if you prefer the other style, the conventional style of PHP, you can just do post, and then you can just say full name. But with the CodeIgniter's built-in functionality, we can just do it this way, and it's just going to be full name, and with an underscore between full and name. And I'm just going to copy this, and we need email, password, password again, and agree. So we'll just change each one of these. So full name, email, email, password, password, and password again, and then agree for the checkbox. Agree. So just change this to agree, and then password again, and then password and email. So that should be all of our inputs that we need. The next thing we need to do is we're going to create a object to store all of these values in, and then we're going to pass them onto our model, and then we're going to get a response from the model, and we're going to check that response, and depending on that response, what we'll do with it. So we can just create an object just like we would in an array. So it's essentially just be the same thing. We'll just call this object data. We'll just new standard class, and we'll say data, and we're going to say full name equals full name, and we're just going to do the same thing for all these. So full name, email, password, password again, and agree. So we'll say full name, password, that should have been email, I suppose, email, and password, and password again, and then agree, and here we can just come here and just do this, and password again, and password, and email, email. Okay, so we have all those: full name, email, password, password again, and agree. And then for those, we're just gonna we'll say model response. This will be the response from the model, and we'll say this model, or excuse me, register model, and we're going to say validate, and we're just going to pass in this object, which is going to be data, and then we're just going to check model response. So when we get into the model, this will make a little bit more sense what I'm doing here. So model response and data, full name, and we could do this a little bit differently, but this is just how I have it wrote, and so I'm just going to do it this way. So if not empty, data, full name, oops, full name, and I may end up changing this as we go along when I get to the model, but like I said, for now, this is kind of how I have it wrote, so I'm gonna go with that and see what happens. So full name, and again, I'm just using the short syntax. So if not empty data full name, then it's going to equal data full name. Otherwise, it's going to empty equal nothing. So, and then I think we'll see, we need to do the same thing for the email address as well, because we're not going to return a password or the checkbox state. We're only just going to return their name and email address, because if depending on the password, you know, if they submit the password, we don't want to return that information back in that request. We just want to make the user re-enter their password. You know, typically to avoid having to make users retype in information, you know, we'd use a AJAX request, but we're not going to use AJAX for our form submission. If you guys want to go ahead and build it out that way, that's fine. But for the purpose of this, I'm just going to do it this way without. So this is we're just going to change this one here to email. So we'll use some jQuery or JavaScript and AJAX for the actual calendar events, but for the authentication system, we're not going to do that. So this validate redirect. This is going to be a validate redirect method that we're going to create, and we're going to pass in the model response to it and model response. So we're going to pass that in, and if you want to check to see if it's a AJAX request and then do something different, if you're not sure, you just would do this this input and then say is AJAX request, and then if it's not, we can just return it this way. So, but for this, we're just going to do it like this, because we're not going to, like I said, we're not going to build any kind of AJAX form submission. And then down here, we're going to create another method, and this method is going to be our validate redirect. So this is going to be a public function as well. Or actually, excuse me, we're going to make this a private, so it's only available within the scope of this. It could be public if you wanted, but we don't really want anybody to be able to call this validate redirect other than within the scope of this object. So it's just going to be a private function, and it's going to be validate redirect, and then it's going to accept input, and we're just going to call the input where to, and we're going to in here we're going to basically check to see what the response is, which, you know, we're going to return a response from the model that we can filter, and depending on the response, we'll redirect the user to either being logged in or back to the registration form or an error page or wherever we'd like to redirect them to. So to begin with, we're going to set some flash data, and you could CodeIgniter's kind of done away with the whole flash data thing. So basically, it's essentially setting just a variable within the session, but we can still use this method within this version. So we're just going to do it that way. This session, and we're just going to say set. The flash data won't persist more than one request at a time. So after that request is up, it's going to delete it. So we don't have to necessarily keep track of it that way. CodeIgniter will kind of keep track of that, and it will automatically remove that session data after that request. And we're going to call this flash data response, and we're going to say where to. And so we can basically we'll get all of this information that's returned essentially from the model in this flash data, so we can use that to kind of manipulate how our view is to the user. And so we're going to create a switch statement, and this switch statement is going to filter our response for us, and that's going to be the where to, and we're going to return an object that's going to contain a value or a key that's going to be labeled redirect, and then we're gonna check that to see where to redirect to. So we're just gonna say case, and case it's register. So depending on, you know, if maybe there was an error with their form submission, like their passwords didn't match, or the email wasn't valid, or the full name wasn't correct, or they didn't agree to the checkbox, we can redirect them back to the registration page and show them that. So I'm going to say redirect, and this here, you can either pass it in right in this function, or you can concatenate, and usually, or excuse me, you need to pass it in this way. So with the base URL, I think you can do it the other way. And we're just going to say register. Now we could go a little bit further, and in our response we could include where we wanted to redirect, and then we could put, you know, have a key that said location, and then just pass that location to a redirect function and do it that way if we wanted to make it a little more elegant. But we're just going to do it like this. So case register, we're going to redirect base URL register, and then we're going to say case success. We're going to show the success view. So I'm just going to copy this a little bit, because so success, we're going to success page, and so for this one, I'm going to say case case already registered. So if we check and we see that they're already a registered user, we're going to let them know that they're already a registered user. And to do that, we're going to display the error page, and we're going to set some extra flash data here to let them know. So we're just going to say, I'm just going to come up here and copy this, and oops. So to do that, we'll just set these, and we'll change these values, and we'll just say error, and we'll say the error is true, because we're going to check this value. We're going to check error, and if it's true, then we'll know to display it in our view. And then here it's going to, I'm going to say already register, and we're going to say true to that as well. So we'll check to see if there's an error, and then depending on what kind of error, essentially what message to display in the error view. And let's see, so the next one is going to be fail. So case fail. What we're going to do is basically, if the only failure we're really going to be checking is whether or not there's a creation fail. We're not going to get too deep within the registration process, so we're just going to do the same thing essentially, but break, and this is going to be break, and if I can quit fat finger and everything. Okay, this is we're just going to change this one here, because we're going to leave the error, because we're going to need that to check this again to see if there's a error. We're just going to say user create fail, and we're going to say true, and then we'll create a default one. So if nothing matches, this will run. So if none of these match, register, success, already register, or fail within this where to redirect, we'll create a default action to be performed, and that is going to be, we're just going to redirect back to the registration page, and so the user is just kind of back there at that area again, and we're not going to really say anything. Now realistically, we should create an if block here and say if where to, and actually it should be if is set, or if is object, we do is object, and that should be where to, and is, let's see, I think is writable, is true, object, I think we just need to do is set where to redirect, just to double check to make sure that that value is actually being sent back to us. Now really we should know that, you know, what's going to be contained within our object, but just in case you know, something goes wrong in the response from our model, we can check to make sure that it is an object and that this value is set, so we can check it here, because if we try checking this and it's not set, then it's going to give us an error. And then else we can just do a redirect again, and we'll just say redirect base URL to register. So we'll just do that. And that really should be about everything we need for our controller, so this should work pretty well. Alright guys, so I think what I'm going to do is end this because we're about at an hour, so I want to try to keep these sections at an hour or less. So we'll pick up in the next section working on the register model and get that built out, and once we have that done, then we can kind of move on to the login section of this application and go from there. So I'll see you guys back in the next lesson. Thanks.